This weekend, the Premier League title race took a dramatic turn as Liverpool and Arsenal both lost, while Manchester City conducted a 5-1 drubbing of Luton Town. In this video, we dissect how Oliver Glasner's positive vibes only approach managed to beat Liverpool, how a tactical tweak at halftime changed the game for Aston Villa, and whether Manchester City can be stopped from winning 4 consecutive Premier League titles. So, Manchester City have won the Premier League. It's over, we can cancel the season, they've won it. Arsenal and Liverpool both bottling at the weekend, City now leading the way. Let's get to this then, Harry. Are City champions?
I mean, I'm going to be positive. I'm going to be on a positive note, and I'm going to say no, not yet. There's still a lot to play for. However, Manchester City, top of the league, all they have to do is in their hands now. They've just got to win all their games and they're champions. What do Man City do a lot of the time? Win all their games. It's going to be really tough from now on. And I've seen Arsenal fans and Liverpool fans say, well, City will drop points. Will they? Will Man City drop points?
Probably not. They're not going to win the FA Cup, though, because they are going to lose to Chelsea on Saturday. But that's the point. In the Premier League, they seem to be really strong. Let's start with talking about this weekend in chronological order. I think that's the best way to tackle this. So we start with Manchester City's 5-1 win over Luton Town. This game, to me, feels like that Michael Owen video where he's just peppering shots against a 12-year-old and the bloke just goes, well done, mate, he's 12. I feel like City just are too good here. If you look at the net spend for both these sides, I think City's is like 20 times that of Luton's. If you look at the Luton side that was available on Saturday, they had 1 fit centre-half. I mean, that says it all really about the difference here. City had 4 on the pitch, Luton had 1, and it's Reece Burke. So this game really did have that David versus Goliath feel, and unfortunately David wasn't really able to compete here. Luton have given a great account of themselves in games like, well, the reverse fixture against City at Kenilworth Road, against Liverpool, against Arsenal, but on this day, unable really to compete. Professional job from City, it's exactly what you would have expected, right?
Yeah, 100%. At this crunch time in the season, Man City don't make mistakes, and they knew Etihad, Luton, as you say, a very weak side. They knew they could put a few past them. That is exactly what they did. Again, it wasn't silly, it wasn't messy. They got the job done. Bish, bash, bosh, 5-1 win. They made it look so easy, and they did everything they could, and immediately, there's always I always believe there's a slight advantage when you play first in the weekend out of all the title fight, and in the title rivals. And obviously, City did play first on the Saturday, Liverpool, Arsenal played on the Sunday. I always think that has an advantage because suddenly City put all the pressure on Liverpool and Arsenal to win. And lo and behold, neither of them did that.
I think it's very dependent because if City and Liverpool had both lost, I think Arsenal look at the Villa game, there's no pressure then.
Yeah.
So it's very dependent. Obviously, City winning that opening game did put pressure on Arsenal and Liverpool, and both of them ultimately caved to that pressure. Let's talk about the Liverpool game then, because I think this is... Well, I don't know, Liverpool and Aston Villa both equally interesting, those games. The Liverpool losing 1-0 to Crystal Palace, Arsenal losing 2-0 to Aston Villa. But I think the Liverpool loss to Palace is more interesting because Palace haven't been a side that have performed really well this season. Villa have taken on the big sides and performed very well, but there has been a bit of a change in the culture at Crystal Palace in recent weeks. A lot of the players and a lot of the murmurs throughout the camp say that Oliver Glasner has done a great job since coming in, and actually it's not just the stuff you see on the pitch, it's the whole culture around the club. There's been one word that seems to be banded around a lot, and that is positivity. Everything is, you know what, we may be able to do this. I think that's what got them the win here.
Yeah, 100%. I think you have to take your hat off to Glasner because it's a hard job coming in after Roy Hodgson, who has one ideology of football. I love you, Roy, mate, but your football is a bit outdated, let's just say that. A little bit, yeah. Glasner's come in, he's shifted that football focus, he's shifted that mindset, as you say, very positive, very willing, a lot of belief. Ted Lasso-esque, you could say, especially in a team in red and blue.
Well, they are based off Crystal Palace, aren't they? AFC Richmond, so
stars, but
potentially so. But he's not American; he's German, but he does sound American.
Yeah, but he's done a great job, and it felt like a result like this was deserved for them. They played really well. Eze's been on fire. Elise's now coming back. How massive is that for Palace? I think things are going to looking on the up for Palace, and maybe these kind of results can become more regular as we push on into next year.
Yeah, I think things are really, really positive for Crystal Palace. I think they've played really well in recent weeks. The results just haven't been there. Today, though, that performance did have some substance to it, and it did come to a result, and that's huge. For me, there's huge untapped potential at Crystal Palace. I think that if you look at players like Eberechi Eze, Michael Elise, Mark Gurhey, Adam Wharton as well, I was really impressed with him in the Liverpool game and since he joined in January. I think those 4 players you could consider some of the best players outside of your traditional Big Six.
Yeah.
Well, Big Seven, really, if you count Newcastle. But I think, or Aston Villa, depending on this season. But I think that, outside those big clubs, I would say, those 4 players I named are some of the best players in the league, and Crystal Palace have all of them. So Palace has huge untapped potential there. If they can supplement that with a bit more talent, I think that Munoz bloke who joined, the Mexican right back, I think he's looked really good since joining.
Better than Joel Ward.
Well, certainly better than Joel Ward. I think Tyreek Mitchell was huge, and actually he was a huge part of the game. So let's talk about the game. The Palace front line throughout were brilliant. They linked up really well. They put pressure on the early stage. There was 2 chances in the first 2 minutes for Crystal Palace. The goal ultimately came, though, in the 12th minute. It was probably the best illustration of that brilliant attacking play, Ebriki Etse's goal. It was a 21-pass combination from Crystal Palace. They then got it to the left-hand side. Alexis McAllister broke it up by making a tackle, but it fell to Tyreek Mitchell, who cuts it back, and Eze, who hung on the edge of the box, slotted it home. It was... a very good goal from Eze and a very good piece of play from Crystal Palace, because if you told anyone who watched Crystal Palace during the Roy Hodgson era over the last year and a half that they would complete 21 passes and then score a goal, both parts of that sentence seem unbelievable. So I do think that is a huge commendation of Oliver Glasner and what he's managed to achieve in such a short space of time at Crystal Palace. I think that's a really exciting appointment, and it seems to be paying off.
Yeah, Palace doing really, really well, and long may it continue for them. But the problem is, we can sing Palace's plaudits as much as we want, but Liverpool. Yeah. Come on. This time, that's a difference. City, I know it's Luton, I know it's Crystal Palace, no, it's different, but it's the same kind of situation for the big side. Man City, on Saturday, knew what they needed to do, got the job done with no mess, left. Yeah. Easy 5-1 win. Liverpool, I wasn't expecting 5 goals, but again, it's a similar thing.
At home, you've got to get it.
Time in the season, at Anfield, turn up, win the game, go home. Should be done. Should be that easy. Should be that simple at this point in the season. To be thrown away, you're not even getting a draw. That is a massive drop of points, and they're going to come to rue that, I feel.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there was a lot of pessimism around Liverpool fans and in the Liverpool camp after Thursday night's game. They got torn apart by a very disciplined and regimented Atalanta side who were very aggressive. They played in the front foot. They won every ball. And Liverpool just got knocked off their perch by that. They weren't expecting that at home. And here again, at Anfield, they looked like the second best side. And well, for portions of the game, at others, they looked like the most clinical team, but they did create a lot of chances. If you look at the game, I think the Athletic framed it perfectly. They had an article which listed the 10 misses that cost them that game.
Yeah.
And that's, you look at the stats, then there's 4 big chances. I know big chances aren't always the best measure of how well a team's played because they're quite subjective. It's quite difficult to quantify, but statistically, 4 big chances, all of which were missed. And that is just not acceptable at this stage of the season. They had 21 shots, they're 70% of the ball, they created 2.81 XG. There is no excuse for them not to score a goal in that game. And quite frankly, the stats make for really damning viewing. I think if you're anyone that watched the game, it was a very difficult day for Liverpool. It just never felt like that goal was going to come. That belief that's got Liverpool in those title fights, got them to a title over the last few years, won them Champions League trophies. It doesn't seem to be there. And I think once again, we're seeing a potential consequence of Klopp announcing his departure a little bit too early.
Yeah,
perhaps could have just left that a couple of months.
It felt so positive for Liverpool when he announced that, and obviously all the motivation was like, Klopp's farewell tour, let's go win all the trophies we can. Then they got knocked out the FA Cup by United. They got over that, won the Carabao Cup against Chelsea. Yeah, and that's trophy 1 of 3. Pittle then going, we're going to win the treble, going to end it on a high. Then Atalanta, I know that tie's not over, but then Atalanta, I think, took the first big hit into that big tour, and they are still recovering from that, and now the Premier League's taking a hit, and suddenly I think it's going to get worse now because there's going to be a bit of panic amongst the Liverpool camp, the fans, even Klopp, because he won't want to walk out of this season with just the Carabao Cup.
I was going to say that quadruple could look like just a Carabao Cup,
and that's depressing.
Title. Yeah, it really is. But yeah, it's creating a very fascinating dynamic, this title race. We've been talking for months about how good this title race has been, and now it just feels like there's been a shift I've been saying it for months that Man City will come back. They are that inevitable force in the Premier League.
That's what I do.
And it does feel like now is that time. We've got that Volta in the season where Liverpool and Arsenal both lost in the same weekend. Let's talk about Arsenal then, because I think their game is a little bit more interestingly tactically. For Liverpool, it's the fact Liverpool missed a load of chances and Crystal Palace took their one. And, clinical from Palace, very regimented and disciplined in defence, but Liverpool should have scored. Liverpool should have won that game. Aston Villa, though, a little bit of a different picture. And I want to first start, actually, by a comment at the end of the game. So Unai Emery, at the end of the match, said the only way to win here is to keep possession. If we tried to run behind for 90 minutes, it would have been difficult. The plan after half-time was to continue building up, avoiding their press, and with Zaniolo, we started holding up the ball more. So I think that's quite interesting. It talks there about possession, because in the first half, Arsenal had the dominance of possession. They generated 14 shots, 1.23 expected goals. They looked the better side. Then something switched. And it wasn't really anything tactically, because Villa played the same way they always would. Villa have a very high line. They're very confident on the ball. And what they like to do is move the ball around their back four. So if a back four, then a double pivot. It creates two wide triangles, deep wide triangles, for them to be able to build up, bait the press, and then spring forward quickly with their very fast attackers. That's how they've played all season. And nothing in principle changed, neither in the first half nor the second. But in the second half, they were just a little bit more aggressive. What changed was, one, what Arsenal did, and one, what Villa did. What Villa did was they executed their instructions better. They found those passes quicker and got players into more open areas of the pitch, which meant they could then find space in behind. And once they were braver in possession, once they started dominating the game, Arsenal dropped off. That meant Villa then have more time to move the ball around the back, more time to gain control of the game, and ultimately they increased from 44% possession in the first half to 53% possession in the second half. Now, you don't need to be a genius to work out that having less of the ball means you're going to struggle a little bit more in the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's that old caveat in football, isn't it? If the other team don't have the ball, they can't score. And I think especially now, in modern day football, and against these sides like Arsenal, like Man City, they don't know how to, and they don't know how to play football without the ball. Their whole kind of play style,
it's possession
and the way
based,
they play is they have the ball, they bore you to submission, and then they score loads of goals. But when they don't have the ball, they can't do that. It's that simple, saying that you cannot score without the football, and every time you do that, you're gonna win the game. As simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, Arsenal second half, 4 shots, generating 0.2 XG. You can't win in that way. No. Aston Villa had a very good second half. They scored goals in the 84th and 87th minute, I believe. It was Bailey and Watkins with the goals. And that was it looks on paper very smash and grab, but it was very methodical, very tactical from Emery and from Aston Villa. And another thing to note is that Arsenal once again got caught out by a team that want to split those centre halves. It's something that we've seen quite a lot this season with Arsenal. Is as soon as the opposition split the centre halves in Arsenal's build-up, they really struggled to get out. We saw it against Bayern Munich in the Champions League in stages, and they managed to work around it eventually, Arsenal, but they didn't have that in this Aston Villa game, and that has a huge impact. They can't build up, they can't build out, they can't progress, they can't get out the pitch, so they often just look to lump it long, and that doesn't work. They don't really have that mechanism. That's what Villa have that Arsenal don't, perhaps, is that ability to just pump it long. Villa have, Villa, because they build up in these triangles, if they are struggling on the left-hand side, getting pressed a little bit too high, they can go to the right-hand side. But they've also got those long balls. They've got players in Watkins and Bailey who are very quick in behind, who will go and chase that ball. So I think, key tactical stuff, just Villa managing to, Emery's just kept the tactics very simple, the same as they have all season, and that worked against Arsenal. Yeah,
and it very much did, and it just feels like, again, it's another... Arsenal, they get to the business end of the season, and it's another poor result. It's the last few years they've been in the fight, they've given it their best. They're still in the fight, I get that, but they're falling away at the final hurdles once again. And I mean, this is why we say City are inevitable and they always win the league. Because how has it possibly coincided that both Liverpool and Arsenal have both dropped points at exactly the same time? It just feels like scripted. Arsenal saw that Liverpool loss and went, they should have looked at it and gone, well, we can really take advantage here. And they did the complete opposite.
Well, could you look at the fact they both played Europe in the week? Both sides played on Wednesday and Thursday, respectively. And given that they don't perhaps have the squad depth that Man City do, are they not...
the same gap as City.
What do you mean?
Well, you know,
Yeah, but they don't have the same squad depth. They can't rotate to the same
yeah, but
extent.
I know if you want to fight for different trophies, you should be able to cope. You know, that's
Not really, given City have a 700 million revenue and are backed by the Saudi.
no, I'm not saying
they can have a better squad depth.
Any club who are fighting in more than one competition should be able to cope with playing a game every 3 days. You know, I'd expect any football team to do it that are in the Premier League, really.
Yeah,
they have to worry about it. Sheffield United will never be in that stage of their lives.
They can't play one every week.
It just feels like this was always bound to happen. Yeah. And again, you know, Pep Guardiola's Man City don't fall at the final hurdle. They don't mess up in the when the pressure's on and when the crunch matches, every result is a big game. They don't fall and they don't falter. Whereas Liverpool and Arsenal have, and they did.
Yeah. Shall we talk run-ins then and ultimately decide who we think is going to win at the Premier League title? I'll put a graphic up on the screen now so we can talk about it and you guys can have a look at the schedule. So we'll start with Manchester City because they are leading the way at the moment. Next, obviously, we're not looking at other fixtures, just the Premier League fixtures in this. Their next game is Thursday, 25th of April. They head away to Brighton. Then they're away at Forest, home to Wolves, away at Fulham, away at Tottenham, home to West Ham. Are there any potential banana skins in there that you see immediately?
No, because the only team I'd say is Tottenham, but as I said, this Manchester City side do not let up. They not
always
get beaten.
Tottenham though.
Yeah, not at this stage in the season. They just always know what they're doing. And if they do lose that Tottenham game, it's probably because they've already won the league. And that's the difference. So. And because Liverpool and Arsenal could have this run, and I'd sit here and go, they won't win every game. Just because those sides just don't have the same effect that City do in these run-ins.
Yeah, I still think, despite Brighton's underperformance, that's a tough match. I still think De Zerbi might pull something out of his sleeve there. He's got... Well, Stupinan should be back in the side by then. I'm not sure yet whether Mitoma or Solly March would be back.
Yeah.
I think they might both be out to the end of the season, but I know that's been a huge issue for them, but Brighton can turn up in games like that. They've beaten City before. I remember Julio Enciso's goal at the end of last season that was won, I think, Goal of the Year last year, won the Puskas Award. So I feel there is an opportunity for Brighton. I feel that there's a chance Tottenham, especially at home, beat Man City. But other than that, West Ham final day, unless West Ham are pushing for Europe hard, I don't know. No. The pressure will be on City there, though, if the title race is still alive.
Pressure don't affect them. I've never seen a City side crumble under pressure.
Yeah, let's have a look at that Arsenal run then, since they're second. Wolves up next this weekend. Then it's Chelsea in the midweek at home. Wolves away, by the way, Chelsea at home. Tottenham away, Bournemouth at home, Manchester United away, Everton at home. Now, looking at that run-in, immediately Chelsea jumps out to me. They struggled against them earlier in the season. This Chelsea side, following from their 6-0 win against Everton, now they might get drubbed by Man City and that confidence is shot again. But if they somehow got something from City, they'd be a very confident side going into Arsenal away, a game that they did do well in earlier in the season. How do you see that? How do you see that panning out? Is there a chance for Chelsea there?
Yeah, I really do think that is a potential banana skin for Liverpool, for Arsenal, and I really can see them dropping points. I can also see them dropping points away at Tottenham. There's nothing agreed. Tottenham would want to do more than prevent their rivals from winning the league. I even look at United away. Anything,
they just seem to get lucky at Old Trafford, don't they?
Anything can happen at Old Trafford. You know, Bruno Fernandes might die in the box and they'll get a penalty.
Especially since Champions League is potentially on the line. Well, Europa League for Man United potentially on the line. I definitely think there is an opportunity there.
Yeah, even Bournemouth are playing well. You never know of Arsenal. They have that silly result in them all the time.
As for Liverpool, I think it's a very strong. Like, they've got a really nice run in. Fulham away, Everton away, West Ham away. Should all be wins. Everton's a potential banana skin just because it's a derby, but Everton have been so poor recently, I can't really see them competing. Then they've got Tottenham at home, Villa away is a toughie, but if Villa are already in Champions League, they may well be resting up for a potential Conference League final, and then it is Wolves at home to end the season. Quite an interesting run in then. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen here. I feel like it's in City's hands, obviously, since they're top, and they don't look like they're going to slip up. Yeah, and I think, to be honest, to be pretty honest, I think Liverpool and Arsenal still got a drop of points in there each. I look at those games for them, I'm not convinced. Whereas City, I think, okay, they maybe slip up at Brighton, maybe at Tottenham, but as I said, I think it won't matter because I think Liverpool and Arsenal will both slip up as well at some point. Yeah. I
think every team might have one slip up in them, but
City are ahead.
Exactly. Yeah. And if any team, and if one of those three teams doesn't have a slip up, it will be Manchester City.
And both Arsenal and Liverpool have already slipped up this campaign, and that's why City are ahead. It's fascinating to see that we're in the position we are in. Manchester City look like they will go 4 for 4, which will be the most dominant period in English Premier League history. There's about 5 teams I think that won 3 in a row, and United I believe are most of them. But Manchester City could become the first to go 4 in a row.
3 in a row.
He won 3 in a row. He never won 4 in a row. But this would be the first team.
Says it all.
And without Liverpool's COVID title in there, Manchester City would have probably gone 8 consecutive titles. I think they've 6 in 7 years. So this would be their 8th consecutive title.
Wow.
I know, if they win this year, it'll be 6 in 7 years, so it'll be 7 consecutive titles. But, that is a ridiculous stat. If they win this year, 6 in 7.
Yeah.
And people say there isn't a monopoly at the moment in the Premier League, but Manchester City are the most dominant team. And you look across Europe, where Bayer Leverkusen have just broken Bayern Munich's 11-year run, and they've become the first side since VfL Wolfsburg that's not named Borussia Dortmund or Bayern Munich to win the title. You've got in Ligue 1 still PSG, but it's PSG, and they've only won 2 in a bounce because they always seem to bottle every couple of years just for a laugh. Then you've got in the Serie A, it seems to change hands every year between the Milan clubs and Napoli, of course, last year. In La Liga, you've got Real and Barca, who seem to rotate between who's going to be crap and who's going to be really good.
Even Atletico Madrid a few years back as well.
Indeed, yeah. So Premier League at the moment is the most one-sided league in the world. It's supposed to be the most competitive, the one with the most money. Anyone can win any game, but Man City are the most dominant side in world football right now.
Yeah, I think they've got us in the bag.
Well, that is very interesting. You guys at home, feel free to leave your comments in the comments down below. Leave your thoughts. Are Manchester City going to win the Premier League title? It seems like, based on all the evidence, pretty damning that Man City will win a 4th consecutive Premier League title. But give your thoughts. If you want to keep watching our content, there's a video on screen now where we talk all things Roberto De Zerbi and whether or not he's overrated. Very interesting conversation topic. Go ahead and watch that video. But that's everything from us this week. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.